everyone, and welcome to Loud Poets Happy Hour. I am your host, Dr. Katie Ailes, and I am so excited to be here with you guys today, bringing you a happy hour check-in. If you haven't checked out the rest of this series, this is our new series in which we take on poetry writing challenges, we talk you through them, offer some guidance, and we write new poems ourselves. We have been having such a blast with this series. We're on our third challenge now, and it's been so much fun, honestly. So thank you so much if you've been joining us on this journey. If you haven't seen the rest of the episodes, you can check all of them out through the link in the description. And what this segment is today is that I check in with one of the people writing, with one of our poets. And I am very, very excited because today I'm going to be checking in with Mr. Kevin Mclean. But before I introduce him, you may ask, what is the challenge this week? This week's challenge is to write poetry from the perspective of monsters. It has been ridiculous and fun, and I've had so much fun researching it because honestly, there are so many different approaches to this. So I'm very excited to see how Kev is getting on with it. If you want to see my 5 top tips for writing poetry voiced by monsters, you can check out the link up in the eye. There's a lot of monster poems. I got very overwhelmed with the number of monster poems. But now to bring in our guests so that I'm not just talking to myself and to you about monsters, please, everyone, welcome the magnificent Mr. Kevin Mclean. Hey, Kev.
Hello.
How are you getting on?
Good. I feel attacked that I've been brought on the show for Monster Week. I feel like it's like a little dig.
If it feels personal, it is. Well, how's your monster poetry been going? Have you found it easy to write as a monster?
My answer is the same every time we've ever done a challenge. I go, actually, it was much harder than I thought. I think I keep thinking poetry is much simpler than it is. I campaigned hard. Yeah, I campaigned hard for monsters, and I kind of regret it. Not the writing about monsters, because if it had been cows, right, just write about a cow. But it's from the perspective of.
Yeah.
I find that very difficult. Most of my poetry is from my own perspective. There's only very limited cases in which I don't do it as a first person thing. I know it's still first person, but you know what I mean, like persona, yeah.
Yeah, it's not something you've tended to do a great amount, which is not to say that a lot of your work is hyper confessional or anything, but yeah, you don't tend to sort of
just very vain.
That's poetry, isn't it? But yeah, you don't tend to really slip into other skins. And I think that's both the challenge and the joy of this is not just writing about a monster, but getting into the mind of a monster, whether that is, you know, as I was saying in my 5 top tips video, whether you are deciding to empathize with the monster or keep them as a truly scary, terrifying concept. That really is the challenge. So have you... Yeah.
I found that very difficult because I found it very difficult to select. I had some initial ideas like when it first came out and I was like, oh, that'd be good. I could do this. I wanted to do like a Jack the Ripper thing. And then I thought it about, it was like, he killed a bunch of women. Like he's a horrible, like, I don't want to, no thanks.
You don't want to humanize him in a way, or even write a poem that could be perceived as empathizing with someone who was...
or just try and put myself in that headspace. Don't need to. So I was like, and then, but on the other side of it, the ones that you could do that with, you know, the more empathetic monsters, it then somehow feels very cliche and like, you know what I mean? Like Frankenstein's monster. Yeah, we get it. That's the whole point. You're not doing anything different with the text. So it feels like you have to then either do one that is, you know, fundamentally changing it. Or you have to do one that is then more realistic to you. You know, like find an element of yourself that is monstrous.
It's so funny you saying about a cliche, because as I was sort of doing the 5 top tips video and thinking about this, I realized that we've had such a wave of not just poetry, but art more broadly, empathizing with monsters and sort of humanizing different monsters recently. So especially like take vampires, right? Like Twilight being one of the most commercially successful things is all about making vampires from, I mean, they were always associated with sex, but making them from a dangerous sexual predator into, oh, it's Sexy Edward, or, you know, werewolves, Sexy Jacob, and oh, they're just your friendly neighborhood monsters. And even with like Hotel Transylvania or what is it, The Things We Do in the Shadows, you know, there are all of these examples of humanized monsters. So I see what you mean about it arguably becoming a cliche recently. Yeah.
Yeah, so I aired on the, or I'm still in the process of putting it together. A lot of my early prep processes, thinking just like I'm quite good at, like, once I have a solid idea, like going there it is, but I need like loads of time to consider. So like I aired on the idea like, okay, well, examine things about yourself that
Mm.
could be considered monstrous or could be like turned up, right? I often think like a good way to think of it is like, what if you took all your mannerisms and stuff and turned it up to be a monster level, like Hulk, right? If you're angry, you're angrier. If you're, you know, and I was like trying to find an archetypal monster that would fit that kind of aspect. And so I don't know if I will go this way or not. I am having other ideas, but one of the things I thought was like zombies are often seen as a consumerist kind of they came about very in the 90s, that sort of like Sam Raimi's Visage of the Dawn of the Dead in the mall and things like that is just very based around consumerism. But I thought there's another aspect in terms of like hunger and
Mm.
the need to like eat. And obviously, I have written previously about like my sort of body issues or ways I think about body issues. Like, what I mean? Like just about my
Yeah.
stuff. I'm a bigger dude. I love cake. And so, it's like I could see that kind of parallel. And I was like, there's something maybe there about that, quest to kind of fill that hole that can't be filled type thing.
Mm. That's fascinating because I think so many, just when you said hunger, I was like, that's the driving force for so many monsters is this idea of hunger. We see them through the lens of hunger, but especially zombies. Yeah.
But yeah, I think when you look at like another example, like a hungry monster, right? A vampire, but they can be sated, like maybe
Yeah.
temporarily, but they can be sated. Whereas, the zombie is that it is a constant, I mean?
Mm.
Like they embody hunger in a way that other creatures don't because they're emaciated as well. The sort of dead body nature of them, the fact that they're so skeletal and kind of wasted away, but trying to like consume and consume. Yeah.
That's fascinating. So am I right then that your sort of early concept is using the zombie and the hunger of the zombie to get at something about, food and to get at, yeah,
Yeah,
sort of
that's sort
issues
of
with,
like
yeah.
less to point at it, but more as a way to like put myself in that frame of mind, right? Like,
Mm.
like to go, okay, how do you write that? The point, there's perspective of monster, because I was like, I don't want to go for a human monster. It's messing me up. Like the whole Jack the Ripper thing sent me down a tangent, didn't like it. So I wanted to go for a monster, a
Yeah.
creature monster. And I was like, where do you draw the line on that? It can't be an animal that, like, which would be easier because you kind of, closer to us. It has to be, I was like, no, it's got to be something fictional, actual monster. Just go monster. So vampire, werewolf, that kind of thing. And it was when I sort of thought about zombie, and I was trying to find what, like, I also think of vampires very differently because I play Vampire the Masquerade. So I have a whole
You
thing
spend a
there.
lot of your time embodying vampires.
Yeah, but it's a
So
very different concept. So I was trying to boil them down to like core concepts. When I think of vampires, I think of like power, a thirst for power, control, right? Which is like, I mean, many people would say defines me, but like, but
our
when I was thinking
creative
about
director,
one, yeah,
everyone.
one that I could really get in the mind of, I thought hunger. That maybe I was hungry, but and so I was like, I could write from the point of view then, and sort of detach myself from the hunger for human flesh, right? That's the code word. But like, what do I think about hunger, and where would that go if I turned it up to a monstrous level? Like
Mm.
not just when I'm like sad and want a biscuit, but like, no, what if that was your constant, state of mind? So I was hard to explain. Sorry, what I mean.
No, I think that makes a huge amount of sense, and it has a lot to do with, again, just going back to the sort of research that I did. Some of my favorite poetry is specifically feminist work, like subverting monstrosity and trying to get into the heads of these monsters. And this is quite similar to what like Carol Ann Duffy does with Medusa by creating, by making Medusa this sort of jilted wife and not really letting her off the hook for her murderous eyes, but getting into it. And so I think it's so interesting to say, okay, what is monstrosity but a huge elevation of quite normal traits, just the expansion of a normal trait. Like hunger is normal, everyone feels hunger, but trying to eat everyone's brains is not normal hunger. And
but
so
I mean,
getting
if
at
you
it
look at
that
the
way.
root, right, of what I'm saying about that sort of zombie myth, or not the whole zombie myth, but like the modern interpretation of the
Yeah.
zombie, right? If we're taken from like Dawn of the Dead, then that was about going, it is normal to have a level of societal norms, to behave in a sort of consistent way with the people around you. It is not normal to march just endlessly with no, conscious thought about your destination, to be just driven by the mass want, right? And so that's what that myth was talking about. It's, when you look at vampires, it's fine to indulge a little in the dark or the dangerous, but the vampire is the vanity and power and greed gone to the absolute level, right? So it's trying to find that. And it was for me of going like, to not just be like zombies, here's the base metaphor and we can talk through that, but to go like, I don't care about making it about empathizing the monster or shining a different light. I took the challenge, and I'm like, I'm concerned about giving an accurate portrayal of a monstrous thought.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? Because when you're thinking your own stuff, whether you're a human or a monster, like, you're not trying to make people empathize with your position or justify your position. You're thinking your thought. And so I wanted to be like, I really wanted to just feel like, here is what a zombie would write as a poem.
So this is interesting because I wonder, because you're very much going at it as sort of an internal monologue, as what's in the zombie's head.
I think that's because that's my poetic style in general.
Yeah. Just to throw other options out there, because I mean, you could alter your audience for that. It could instead be, the zombie speaking. Although I guess zombies don't really speak, do they? But that's the challenge, isn't it? Yeah.
But obviously there's a level of, it would be grunts otherwise. So there has to be a level of like the trapped thought, right? Like, what is and that's why I want you to pick something I could identify with and turn up, because then I'm like, because otherwise, how do you possibly write from the point of view from a fictional monster that you have no way of truly understanding beyond a base level metaphorical interpretation?
This is making me think a lot about the tone and the voice that you're going to use, because you're right. Like, the way that we think about zombies, they are voiceless. They just sort of grunt. They don't have intelligence. They're just driven by humor. Da, 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 da. The humor zombie, that's a poem. No, they're just driven by hunger, right? Whereas the vampire is highly intelligent and driven by hunger in a different way. So I think that might be something to play with tonally, is just sort of this, a need without, without the ability to relativize. I was writing
because like I said, I play this vampire game. If I was doing a vampire, it would be very flowery language, very flowery. There would be a lot of like, my dear childer and all that jazz, right? The Cain references, loads of biblical stuff. It would be littered with that. I think when I approach this, I want to do it from a more like natural sort of speaking voice. You know what I mean? Like, just a normal person like would speak, because then that is, it's their voice frozen in the time as, whoever they were when they were turned. So their thought pattern is still there, but it's expressing a new drive that like is separate from their old, you know what I mean? Like, it's like strip away every motivation that normal person has and replace those motivations with just hunger. And so that person is still who they are. They're still thinking, but they wouldn't be having a conversation with you, even though they're capable of thought. They would just be going, gonna eat you. Like, but they would still have thought.
There's so much that you could do here formally, just because I just keep thinking you keep using words like frozen and stuck and playing on a loop. So in terms of like refrain and repetition and interruption of thought, I think could be quite cool. I'm also thinking, because when we use the word grunt, I'm thinking about Gally's univocal.
So good.
What was it, Jim?
Yeah, it was a univocal in you, but he used lots of like Jim Guy and all that.
Jim Guy, yeah. Very guys, if you haven't seen that, please do check it out. We'll have it linked in the description below. But yeah, that sort of language and that sort of like thudding, dull, blah, and that drive and yeah, sort of, yeah,
this is
a
a good point
mind
where
interrupted.
I'm gonna let you off. Your job here, as I see it, is to help me. So I had been thinking about this, where I was like maybe a form, and I don't know if that's just because we've been using form a lot. I was like, you know, it's especially in these tight turnarounds, it can be like a kind of crutch a bit to help you through, right? Like, oh, I have a structure built in. Do you have then, because I like that idea actually, repetition and stuff, and I know there's like Villanelle or Sestina that have like, you know, levels of repetition. Do you have like a suggestion for a form that might work well for this?
Yeah, I mean, those were the two off the top of my head.
Well, give me the third one now, because I've taken them. Ha.
Think of another repetitive form. I mean, there's a lot that you can do with rhyme, but no, I mean, I think that the two big ones that I would say would be Villanelle and Sestina. I mean, I think with the Villanelle too, because you can always do stuff that isn't technically a Villanelle, but uses similar things as a Villanelle, like uses the same final line of every stanza or whatever. You know, there are ways of playing with form out with those official
I mean, I
forms,
could
right?
do like refrain, you know, like just kind of
Yeah,
like
just simple
a
refrains.
less, you know, a more free form kind of repetition, I suppose, that is maybe Sistina-esque. For people that maybe don't know these forms and stuff as well,
Yeah.
we've got a workshop on the channel all about Sistinas, and I've just released this week, I think we put out my wrestling Sistina from NaPoWriMo, so go and check that out. But
Lots of
yeah,
forms.
it's yeah, the sort of the catch-all for them is they're both structures that involve sort of repeating end words.
Yes. I think, yeah, one of those would be a good approach for you. And I think as well, thinking about this is such a weird thing to think about, but thinking about where the zombie is, have they just been turned? Is this the process of a human going into zombification, or is
Weirdly, I have a
this
very specific answer for that.
oh.
No, I want it to feel that the annoying thing about hunger is that it can be ended very easily, but it feels like it goes on forever. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like hunger is in itself rooted in long time frames. No one is immediately hungry. So like I don't want it to you wouldn't know whether it's, you know, turned yesterday or has been living this existence forever.
I'm going to give you a challenge on top of the challenge. You are someone
No,
who
no, I'm turning this off then. That's
this is the
mad.
check-in. I'm helping you. I'm giving you homework.
Challenges aren't helpful. You can see the
Yeah.
teacher in you. I'm helping you. I'm giving you homework. Behave.
Homework is great. What I'm going to say, you are someone who your poetry tends to be quite tightly rhythmic, and you vary your pacing, and you give yourself breaths, and all of this is very good for, varying up a poem and giving it dynamics and all of this stuff. But from what you are saying about how you want this poem to feel, which is, repetitive and exhausting and endless, I want you to write a poem that feels that way, in terms of not really giving yourself varied pacing, just making it go da da
Kind
da
of
da da da
monotonous
da,
almost, yeah.
monotony. Exactly. And one way of getting at that might be, don't give yourself line breaks, just write the whole thing in one line.
I wouldn't even know how to do that. What do you mean in one line?
Like, don't hit return as you're writing the poem. Just keep writing.
Oh.
It might not work, but it might be a useful tool to help you
Because I
just to
do,
keep.
as I write, I do kind of then go, oh, and I should just break those up and make that a
Yeah.
thing. And then
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I've done the first 3 as 4-line stanzas. I guess I'll do that forever now.
Which is
like,
great for normal writing. And normal
yeah.
writing shouldn't feel monotonous and endless and repetitive. But when that's what you're going for, when you're trying to exhaust your reader.
I did a poem actually. How much time have we got, Kate? Because I can
Very, very little. Your time is running out, Mr.
Cool.
Mclean.
I'm gonna find this poem because I wrote it ages ago, and it might just fit really well. We can edit all this bit out as well, so it's fine. There was no weird edit or there anything. I have this poem. So it goes, I wrote this for Poetry Takeaway. The whistle blares. Run. blue line, red line, wall, red line, blue line, breathe, breathe. The drill builds stamina, the drill builds strength, the drill builds discipline. The whistle blares, run, blue line, red line, wall, red line, blue line, breathe, breathe. The drill makes me sweat, the drill makes me focus, the drill makes me win. The whistle blares, run, blue line, red line, wall, red line, blue line, breathe, breathe. The drill is exhausting, the drill is impossible, the drill is coming to an end. The whistle blares, run, blue line, red line, wall, red line, blue line, breathe, breathe. The drill has stopped, the drill has left others needing rest, the drill has me begging for more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Something,
that.
yeah. I wrote that years ago. I don't think I've ever read that out after I wrote it down.
Hey,
So there's
a
one from the
happy hour
vault.
exclusive. There we go. But yeah. I mean, so yeah, you get it exactly. Something that's meant to feel exhausting, and it still has pace within it. But
Totally.
yeah, it gets that rhythm. Awesome. Well, we have run out of time for our check-in, but are you feeling better now that you have homework?
Yes. Thank you for my homework, Dr. Ailes.
Anytime. Guys, I hope that you have enjoyed this mini episode of Loud Poets Happy Hour with our check-in with Mr. Kevin Mclean. I have had a blast talking monsters with you, Kev. And guys, if you want to keep getting fabulous stuff from I Am Loud, you can like this video, you can subscribe to this channel, and you can ring that bell icon so that you don't miss any other poetic goodness. But now it is our time to say adieu. So, Kev, say goodbye.
Cheers.
Or that. Thank you so much for joining us for Happy Hour. If you enjoyed the show, please do give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell icon so that you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. If you want to take it one step further, consider signing up to our Patreon. For as little as £1 a month, you get to submit challenges to the Poetic Pint Glass of Poetic Challenges, and you get lots of other fantastic perks. Thank you so much, guys.